The abyss of Triton 9 does not forgive, and it certainly does not forget. Down here at the base of the iron shelf, the water is a pressurized sludge of minerals and ancient cold. But the greatest threat isn't the crushing weight of the ocean, it's the black blizzard. This is the calling card of the ink butchers. They are Titan-class cephalopods, nightmares of muscle and malice that have evolved the most efficient chemical weapon in the galaxy. Their ink isn't just a distraction, it is a hypercaustic, biological acid that eats through titanium-grade alloy in minutes. It blinds our sensors, shorts out our electrical grids, and dissolves the very suits meant to keep us alive. To the butchers, we are just canned meat waiting for the opener to finish its work. They struck the obsidian harvester without warning. One moment, the deep-sea miners were pulling rare isotopes from the shelf. The next, the entire facility was engulfed in a cloud of darkness so thick that even the high-intensity floodlights couldn't penetrate it. We heard the screams over the comms, the sound of metal hissing as it melted, followed by the terrifying snap of the hull giving way. The butchers didn't even have to use their tentacles. They just breathed on us and the ocean did the rest. But the Federation doesn't just build, it adapts. They created the 19th Deep Sea Reclamation Unit, the Filter Reapers. We don't hide from the ink. We don't try to outrun the acid. We are the only things in the abyss that find the black blizzard delicious. Our suits, the Maelstrom-class exoskeletons, are walking chemical plants. We are equipped with dual-stage, high-speed intake turbines that generate a localized vacuum. We suck the ink right out of the water, refine the caustic compounds through an internal centrifuge, and concentrate the acid into a hyper-pressurized jet. We are the ultimate recyclers. If you try to dissolve us, we will use your own spit to melt your heart. I am Commander Merrick. My intake turbines are humming at 40,000 RPM. And I'm about to clear the air. The drop from Anchor Fortress Sealam was a vertical plunge into a world of shadow. The moment we hit the iron shelf, the sonar went haywire. The ink was everywhere, a swirling oily vortex that felt like being buried in liquid coal. Turbines to active. Clear the visual lane. I barked. The liquid oxygen in my mask felt cold and steady, a stark contrast to the boiling chaos outside. Filter 2 Vax. Turbines at 50%. Sarge, the acidity is off the charts. My outer plates are already sizzling. Filter 3 Tessa. Refineries are hot. I'm starting the first cycle. Let's see what these bastards are made of. I engaged my shoulder-mounted intakes. The roar was deafening even through the thick armor. Two massive vortices of black ink were pulled toward my shoulders, vanishing into the glowing orange intake vents. The internal centrifuge screamed as it spun the biological toxins at supersonic speeds. On my HUD, the acid reserve gauge began to climb, filling with a bright neon green indicator. Contact. Multiple signatures at 12 o'clock. The ink butchers emerged from their own smoke screen. They were massive 80-foot monsters with skin the color of bruised thunder. Their tentacles weren't soft. They were lined with serrated, horn-like blades that could saw through a submarine's conning tower. Dozens of glowing red eyes stared at us, blinking in confusion as their impenetrable fog began to vanish into our suits. They don't like it when you steal their cover. Vax yelled. A butcher lunged at me, its primary tentacles reaching out like massive, barbed whips. I didn't dodge. I waited until it was 10 meters away, right in the thickest part of its own ink trail. Refined payload. Deploy. I triggered the wrist-mounted projector. A beam of concentrated, glowing green acid erupted from my arm. This wasn't the diluted stuff the squid sprayed. This was the refined, concentrated essence of their own lethality, pressurized to 10,000 psi. The beam hit the butcher's mantle like a laser. The beast's biological armor, designed to be resistant to its own ink, couldn't handle the concentrated dose. Its flesh began to smoke and melt instantly, black ichor pouring out into the water. The butcher shrieked, a low-frequency boom that rattled the silt on the sea floor, and tried to retreat, but I didn't let up. I kept the stream steady, carving a path through its nervous system until the massive entity went limp and drifted toward the trench. Tessa. They're flanking the harvester's main reactor. If they melt that casing, this whole shelf goes up. Tessa was a blur of orange sparks and black water. She was pinned between two butchers, their tentacles wrapped around her torso, trying to crush the life out of her suit. But she had her intakes at maximum. She was sucking the ink directly from their siphon pores. I'm taking their lunch, she gasped. Vax hit the one on the left. Vax slid under the first squid, his own acid projector carving a jagged line across its belly. The squid released Tessa in a blind panic, spraying more ink to hide. It was a fatal mistake. More ink just meant more fuel for us. We moved in a synchronized industrial dance. We were the center of a storm, 3 points of light and churning water. The butchers were becoming frantic. Their primary weapon was gone, turned into a lethal poison that was systematically dismantling their pack. They tried to use their sheer mass, slamming into us with the weight of hundreds of tons, but the maelstrom suits were anchored with magnetic stabilizers. We were immovable objects meeting very meltable forces. "The great ink master is surfacing," Vax signaled, his voice dropping an octave. From the deepest crevice of the iron shelf, a shadow rose that eclipsed the harvester. It was the matriarch of the butchers, a leviathan that had survived for centuries. Her ink was so concentrated it looked like solid stone. As she rose, she let out a massive discharge, a black wave that hit us with physical force, pushing us back 20 meters. "Turbines are redlining. It's too much to process at once," Tessa shouted. The matriarch's ink began to corrode our intake fans. The grit and acid were too thick. I saw Vax's left turbine spark and seize, the blades shattering under the chemical stress. "Shut them down. Switch to bypass," I ordered. I looked at my reserve gauge. I had 1 full tank of refined acid. 1 shot. "Vax, Tessa, distract her. I'm going for the siphon." The 2 divers moved in, firing their remaining kinetic harpoons to draw the matriarch's attention. She lashed out, her massive tentacles shattering the nearby quartz pillars. I used the chaos to dive deep, hugging the iron shelf, my thrusters silent. I came up directly beneath her massive, pulsating siphon, the organ that produced the black blizzard. She saw me at the last second, her red eyes widening, but she was too slow. "You want your ink back? Take it all." I jammed my projector directly into the siphon's opening and opened the pressure valves to 100%. 100 gallons of refined, hyper-concentrated acid were pumped directly into the matriarch's internal reservoirs. The reaction was instantaneous and horrifying. The matriarch didn't just melt, she underwent a total internal chemical collapse. The acid reacted with her own ink sacs, triggering a chain reaction of biological explosions. The Leviathan's body rippled, her skin turning gray and brittle before it started to slough off in massive chunks. She let out one final world-shaking boom before her internal structure dissolved entirely, leaving nothing but a massive, tattered hide drifting in the current. The remaining butchers, seeing their goddess turned into a chemical slurry, broke and fled. They retreated into the deepest reaches of the Hadal zone, their ink trails fading into the dark. The black blizzard was over. The water began to clear, the silt settling back onto the shelf. The harvester was a wreck, its outer hull scarred and pitted by acid, but the reactor was intact. The lights of the facility began to flicker back to life, casting a dim, golden glow over the sea floor. I floated there, my turbines clicking as they cooled, my HUD showing reservoirs empty. I looked at Vax and Tessa. They were battered, their suits covered in black soot and green ichor, but they were standing. "Status?" I panted, the liquid oxygen tasting sweet now. "Unit 2, 1 turbine down, but I'm whole. I think I've had enough chemistry for 1 day." "Unit 3, still solid. The harvester crew is signaling. They're alive." I looked out into the abyss. It was quiet again. The butchers had learned the most important lesson of Triton 9. You can bring the darkness. You can bring the acid. You can try to dissolve the very ground we stand on. But we are the species that builds in the dark. We are the ones who take your worst and make it our best. We are the filter reapers. And we don't just survive the storm, we eat it. The ink master is dissolved. The harvester is secure. The iron shelf is ours. The mission is over. We're going back to the fortress. And someone get me a gallon of fresh water. I'm tired of the salt.